Hey there, Shat Nation. It's your host, Gene Lyons, with a warning for some of our more sensitive listeners. In this episode of Shat The Movies, I refer to the Sopranos movie, The Many Saints of Newark, as The Many Saints of New York. As a Queens kid, I am deeply embarrassed, and I humbly beg your forgiveness. On with the show.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me are my co-hosts, Captain Ash Geach and the Shrimpback Shooters.
Hi, y'all.
And Big D Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
Each week, we take a look back in time to decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. Finally, to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are you reviewing tonight?
Gene, tonight we will be reviewing the 1996 film, starring and directed by Tom Hanks, about a 1960s fictional band. And that can only be one film, That Thing You Do.
Well, and our commissioner wrote in and said, "Hey, Shat Crew, I discovered your podcast in the beginning of the pandemic while working in the back of a Lowe's and needing to find something to entertain my mind during the monotony of the day-to-day grind. This show helped me get through those days, so I wanted to first say thank you for your hard work and to allow me to commission one of my all-time favorite films, Tom Hanks's That Thing You Do. My first memory of this movie came when I was 7, and my parents had rented this movie from our local Blockbuster. Even though I had little interest in this film as a 7-year-old, I agreed to watch it because Tom Hanks was in it. And I'm glad I did, because it became a movie I would watch for the rest of my life. The movie has had such an effect on me that my cousin and I would even dress up like the Wonders in our little suits and pretend we were a rock and roll band from the 1960s. And of course, you know I owned and definitely overplayed the soundtrack on my Walkman. While this movie certainly has its flaws and plot holes, a lot of them are filled in the later released extended cut, it always provides me with fond nostalgia, memories, and an enjoyable time. I'm looking forward to seeing what you all think of it, and thanks again for the hours of entertainment, Tony R.
Tony, I'm glad you mentioned the extended cut fills in some of these plot holes, because when I was watching the trailer for this movie, I saw scenes, I was like, maybe I wasn't paying attention because I didn't catch that at all. Like extended scenes of the wedding I didn't know existed. And so I went back and searched through the movie and realized, no, they just weren't in it, or at least the version that I was watching.
I was secretly terrified. When I go to watch a movie before and I see the running time, I saw the extended cut and I said, how could you make this movie 2 hours and like 39 minutes? Happily, that was not the normal cut.
I would have easily taken another hour of this movie.
Wow. Okay.
Because I'm your friend, Tony. I like you. That Thing You Do is a 1996 comedy starring Tom Hanks in his feature writing and directorial debut. It tells the story of the rise and fall of a fictional 1960s one-hit wonder pop band and stars Tom Everett Scott, Liv Tyler, Steve Zahn, Ethan Embry, and Charlize Theron. The film resulted in a musical hit with the titular song of the same name, which was nominated for an Academy Award and a Golden Globe for Best Original Song. So we always ask what your memories are of the movie we're covering. Tonight it is That Thing You Do. Ash, we'll start with you.
I saw this with my family. They absolutely love Tom Hanks, and with him in a movie with like a nostalgia for the 1960s, like Beatles type band. My mom was a big Beatles fan. Like this was absolutely too much for them to avoid, too much for them to miss. So we all went to go see it. And since then, I've definitely seen this other times, like kind of over the years, but When I sat and thought about this movie, I remember two things. I remember like the really annoyingly catchy song, and I remember that line, "Shame on me for kissing you with my eyes closed so tight," because for some reason it's just burned in my brain. And so I really didn't remember much. I forgot that like Giovanni Ribisi's in this movie, or like Charlize Theron is in this movie. So I kind of went into this one with fresh eyes.
Yeah, that line is right up there with "I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy." Like it's impossible to forget.
Or "You Had Me at Hello," right? Like there's like 8 of them from this time period.
This movie was never on my radar back when it came out. I don't remember seeing a trailer for it. I don't remember anyone ever saying, "Hey, you really need to go see That Thing You Do." Nobody ever said that. So until Tony with his generous commission, and Tony, thank you very much. Now when I hear people speak about this film glowingly, and how many family like movie nights were based around this, it all makes sense. So thank you again. I'm glad I watched it.
Like every first generation Kurdish American, I went through a big mod phase, but in 1996, I wasn't there yet. I hadn't broadened my horizons from goth. I was still reeling from The Craft, I think. So that nostalgic 60s appeal of That Thing You Do that Ash mentioned, it was pretty irrelevant to me. Really, it's a missed opportunity, because if I had seen this movie like Tony, I would have jumped on it right then. Instead, I had to wait a few more years until I discovered Quadrophenia and scooter clubs to develop that full-blown mod fever. But it stuck with me since, and this movie really resonated and kind of took me back to those days. Well, speaking of that catchy song, let's hit the trailer.
We bow in unison, and we're off the stage before the applause dies out, right? You have your pick?
Right here.
All right. Keep these with you. Put them on, put them on, put them on. There you go. You guys look great in red. Have I told you that yet?
Let's give a big welcome to the latest addition to the Big Tower Galaxy of the Stars.
Go.
Doing that thing they do. It's the Wonders!
Doing that thing you do, breaking my heart into a million pieces.
So mark that date. Wonderful Wonders!
And you don't mean to be cruel. You never even knew about the heartache I've been going through. Well, I try to forget you, girl, but it's just so hard to do. And if I know you're doing that thing every day, just doing that thing, I can't take you doing that thing you do.
Let's go. We'll change clothes. Wait, no, put that down. We've got people who do that for you, Jimmy. You got a hit record, for God's sakes, on the plate.
Thank you.
In 1964, aspiring jazz drummer Guy Patterson is asked by Jimmy Mattingly and Lenny Hayes to perform with their band, The Wonders, spelled with an O, to cover for Chad, their regular drummer who broke an arm. At the talent show, Guy launches into a faster tempo than Jimmy intended for his original song, That Thing You Do. Jimmy is angered, but Guy's tempo wins them the talent show. They win a paying gig at a local pizza parlor, and when a fan asks for a record, they decide to record their song and sell 45s of it. Local talent promoter Phil Horace notices the band, promising to get them on the radio within 10 days.
So I've always liked movies about music, musicians, bands, singers, and lately in the last couple of years, we've had a bunch of great ones. You had Bohemian Rhapsody, Walk the Line, I think A Star is Born, Whiplash is one of my favorites. And they show the dark side of music. They show what it takes a toll on the musicians, the people involved, their physical healths. But this movie, because it is Tom Hanks, I notice a common thread now. Ash watched this with her family because Tom Hanks was okay. Tony's family, because Tom Hanks was okay. Tom Hanks tying himself to this movie, directing and writing it, it makes it PG entertainment. This is a movie about rock and roll with no sex, no drugs, no swearing. It is golly gee, saccharine sweet. Hey, everybody. It's hard to take it serious, but after hearing the stories behind it, I understand. This is like Trivial Pursuit. This is a fun Sunday night with the family, middle America, suburban religious homes. This had to be rented.
Oh, we are so different. I have so much trouble watching musical biopics because they get so much wrong. And there's always that scene, the drummer's sitting down and he's like, teet, 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 and then the guitar guy's like, oh yeah. And then the bass is like, boom, boom, boom. And the guy's like, and then suddenly like they just go into the fucking song and like then the like screen spins around a couple times. There's a roaring crowd or whatever, Big D. I haven't seen Bohemian Rhapsody, but I've read enough articles to let you know it is grossly sanitized. You want to talk about PG-ifying a fucking movie? That is not how shit happened with Queen. And it's heavily embellished toward the more optimistic side of things. Like, they are a dark band with a very dark story. And although the story that's presented in film is that gritty rock story you're looking for, it's not nearly as bad as things actually were. But you're right. Like, Ash's family is testament to the winning formula of this ultra safe movie. It knew what it wanted to be. It's a PG movie. Tom Hanks, squeaky clean white kids, remembering the 60s without the race riots, the horrors of Vietnam, the rampant drug use. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's okay in a movie like this for sure, because this is the story they're telling. They're trying to tell that like safe, sanitized, like made for TV type of family, like my parents like to pretend that their families were, even though they both came from like very like abusive households. This is what they wish their family looked like in the 1960s. And Bohemian Rhapsody is a terrible film. Every time it's brought up, I've got to say that it's a terrible film. Freddie Mercury is one of my absolute favorite musicians of all time. I think he's utterly incredible. And it was a freaking travesty, Rami Malek wearing that horrible mouth piece thing he wore to look like him. It was awful. But to your point, Big D, I mean, most of the time that's what music movies do, is they try to show like the path to stardom, the path to greatness. And what I do like about this movie is that nobody starts using drugs, right? Like, nobody does like your typical movie moment where like it's like, okay, now we got to put them in rehab, because if they don't get out of rehab, we can't stay on tour. Like, this is just a group of like good kids who form a band, they get lucky, and then there's no more music.
Also, it's important to note that like the entire span of this film is just like a couple months.
Right.
Like, this isn't years with the band, right? So it's reasonable to believe that they didn't actually encounter a lot of the shit. In fact, I would argue that it's much better than like when I watch like The Many Saints of New York. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch the Sopranos movie. And they're like, the race riots. I'm like, I get that they were happening, but we didn't need to make the fucking movie all about that.
Right.
I kind of appreciated this walk through nostalgia. Not necessarily that it was sanitized, but it did show aspects of life that we, forgotten. The other day, I booked our honeymoon using a travel agent that was recommended to me by a friend. And one of my direct reports, who's in her 20s, she was shocked. She's like, a travel agent? Like 3 question marks, I didn't know those still existed. And maybe it's the old man in me, but I fucking love dealing with people who do things for a living. Like, I like going to a pro and being like, hey, you know about flights and places and hotels and shit? Like, hook me up. I bought my hiking boots from a hiking store run by hikers, and they knew their shit, and I love them. They're great. I love riding in London taxis with professional drivers who like take pride in the fact that they are just drivers and that's what they do. I'll admit, I work in an industry that's trying to shift people from brick and mortar to digital solutions, right? That's what I do for a living.
Exactly.
I see the efficiency. I see the cost savings. I see the scalability of disrupting the brick and mortar and shifting to the digital solution. Like, I am trying to break that system to make us more money. But I was talking to the King Bee about this. Like, Frontier Airlines fucked me over because my helmet wouldn't fit in a bin, and they charged me like $100 for it. And he's like, the government should do something about it. You should be able to sue them. I'm like, no, man, I did that to myself.
Yes.
Like, I went with the budget airline. Not all airlines do that. It's the cheap ass one that I went with. And we can't blame anyone but ourselves for the lack of service these days, because we fucking abandon all these things. We don't want to deal with people.
This is where like you and I are totally different, that like I would never go to a specialist store. The only thing that I do is go to mom and pop restaurants. I love a mom and pop restaurant rather than like a chain restaurant, but the rest of it, like, like I want a one-stop shop. We've been recently renovating our 40-year-old home that we purchased back in July, moved in October, and we've been doing like room by room. And I love these like big box stores or these one locations like Amazon where I can literally buy like flooring, carpeting, nails, and self-watering plants, like all at once. So I don't have to like actually interact with people. I hate that. I get annoyed now when I go to a Walmart and the self-checkout is not on and I have to go to like an actual cashier. Like I much prefer to check out myself. I like to order at a kiosk at a McDonald's. Like I know that I'm part of the problem. I'm like the reason for the oncoming singularity, and I apologize in advance. But I just no thank you. I would love it if I never had to interact with people.
Don't go to Brazil. A lot of the stores are a little slower and they have so many employees. You walk within like 2 feet of the front door and somebody's on you. I want to shop in peace.
Same.
I don't need you to push a transistor radio.
Nope.
I don't need you to push the almond covered washer and dryer. Shut up. I'll look around. If I have a question, I'll come and talk to you.
Oh, my ass. I go to like a car dealership, and by the end of the day, I haven't bought anything, but I'm friends with everybody there. We're all on like first name basis. But Ash, you're right. Some things are better online. Speaking of that travel agent thing, so I actually went on their website first. I filled the whole thing out, like passport information, credit card information, like my personal information, Sarah's personal information, all that stuff. And when I booked it, I had one question, which was it said double room. And I was like, does that mean that there's 2 beds or there's 1 bed that we're sharing? I got to check. So I called. That's how I got on the phone with the travel agent. And he went through and did the whole process all over with me, but on the phone. So I'm spelling out G-E-N-E. G-E-N-D? No, G-E-N-E. And then reading passport numbers, credit card numbers, every single one. That was fucking annoying. So sometimes I agree, online's the way to go. But God, there's just something special about dealing with people, except for Uber drivers. Please don't talk to me ever.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's a shame that digital marketers are killing the entire industry. So it's great, Gene, that you shop locally and then you send 10,000 shoppers out to some of the big box stores online. Good, keep up the good fight, Gene.
I just want old people to work out at home.
In this film, we get to this point in the movie where we finally get to hear the song for the first time, That Thing You Do. And when we hear it for the first time, it is a ballad. It is a slow, laborious ballad to get through. It is not fun. And I get it. You know, it's supposed to be sensitive. It's supposed to be sweet. But what I like about what they do here is like even ballads are not this slow. Even ballads don't lack like any personality at all. And I think that this song is the smartest piece of this movie from the beginning, because it's this really interesting narrative device where through the music, we see the difference between Guy and Jimmy. We know that Jimmy, yes, he's like the hot lead man, but he's uptight. He's dreamy, but he's an asshole. And so of course the girls are falling for him, but his girlfriend's going to get the shitty end of the stick there, right? And then you have Guy. He's like bouncy and his hair's kind of weird and he's super nice and he's into jazz. And so you've got your dichotomy, you've got your problem. And in case you were not sure about who you were supposed to like and what our initial like conflict that's going to carry through the movie is, I counted. There are 7. I repeat that, 7 lingering shots by the end of this first part of the film between Liv Tyler's Faye and Jimmy. And every time he's singing into the microphone, his eyes are closed. He really feels the lyrics. And then they show her and she sighs. And like, we get it. She's with the wrong guy.
Oh, the foreshadowing is way out of control. She always sits next to Guy. She's always looking at Jimmy. Within the first few minutes, I understood TB was going to join the military. Like, he's definitely that little patriotic guy. He's going to leave the band first. They didn't give the motherfucker his own microphone. Like, he's like clearly already on his way out. I'm surprised, though, that Jimmy was supposed to be hot. Like, again, I get it. Like, I'm not questioning that, Ash. Like, your taste is your taste. And I imagine that you have very good taste. But to me, like as a dude looking at him, I was like, his hair and his face were so off-putting. I thought he was supposed to be kind of gross and like too much, you know?
No, he's chiseled. Like he's got, no, I'm not saying I think he's hot. I've never been a fan of pretty boys, and he's definitely a pretty boy. Like he's very well groomed. Like his hair is perfect and it's helmet-like, and you know, but he's got that square jaw. He's got the little bit of charisma, and he's got gorgeous teeth. And come on, everybody's a sucker for good teeth.
But I got to tell you, the band, they're great right out the chute. They're killing it. You know, they add Guy to it. They sound great. They all have individual personalities. I am pulling Lenny. I love the dude. He says things that I'm never expecting. They're doing the interview at the state fair, and he says, "Hey, what do you guys think about being at the state fair?" He says, "I'm not with the band. I got a pig entered. I'm going to win myself a blue ribbon." So they do a good job of making the band likable. Their musical skills are good to begin with. And even though I feel like this is a Tom Hanks PG vehicle, you can't help but root for them.
And King B, if you're out there listening, Steve Zahn is fantastic. He's fantastic in Treme. He's fantastic in this. You're an asshole.
Agreed.
Phil gets the song on Pennsylvania radio and books them at a showcase in Pittsburgh where the Wonders, spelled with an O, are booed off stage. Guy meets Mr. White of Playtone Records, who offers a contract and becomes their manager. He respells the band's name as the Wonders, with a W, asks them to join the Playtone tour of Midwestern state fairs, and suggests Jimmy's girlfriend, Faye, join the tour, maintaining their wardrobe. During the tour, the Wonders meet other acts, learn about the business, and become better performers. That Thing You Do gets national airplay, and the band's popularity soars. While most of the band enjoys their taste of fame, Jimmy is itching to return to the studio.
I just recently finished streaming the limited series Daisy Jones and the Six on Amazon Prime. And it was interesting to watch this movie in conjunction with that show. If you're unfamiliar, the novel and the series, it's about the rise and fall of another band. Like, it's very Fleetwood Mac. And there's a ton of similarities between that show and here. Like, one for sure is that I think it's actually really got to suck to be a recording artist for most people, even those that make it big. I think it's probably just a constant struggle. You're constantly trying to one up what you did before. And also, it's got to be really lame to play the same music every single fucking night for the rest of your fucking life. I mean, think about Dave Matthews. He's who I think about the most when I think about this. Like, Dave Matthews, I saw a video the other day of him in like 94 where he's like young and fresh and like he's just come out with Under the Table and Dreaming, and he's having a good time, and like he's still playing those fucking songs in 2023 to like, you know, late 40s, early 50-year-olds. It's gotta suck. But it's also kind of got to be amazing the first time you start to break things. The first time, like, for instance, you hear your record on the radio. And in that show, Daisy Jones and the Six, and in this movie, we get these great scenes of the first time that the band hears their music. And this is where this movie gets things perfect. It's so sweet seeing Liv Tyler and then every band member kind of build, running around, screaming, jumping, excited to share with their family that their song is playing on the radio. And I know that like it doesn't last, but this perfect moment in what is like a really overtly sweet film, it actually still kind of works because it feels so genuine.
So, Ash, you mentioned the difficulty of playing the same song over and over again for 40 years, but how do you also then fake enthusiasm? Like, yeah, everybody, here it comes. And you know they're waiting to hear it, and you have to just go through the motions. And I think it is so difficult to be an artist, to make money, because the industry is against you. The industry is not made for you to be successful. And that moment where she's licking the stamp and she hears it and she runs, and that joy, it is a beautiful moment. But they go immediately, beat by beat. Everything is up. Everything is up. They're moving. There's nothing that made me pull for them. It didn't feel earned. It felt like it was all just too easy. And I understand they're a one-hit wonder, but I would have been pulling for them more if there were some challenges along the way.
Well, this movie did really get me thinking about gatekeepers, though, because that sweetness of success is there because you made it. Nobody could stop you. Right now, anybody could just be like, oh, I'm publishing my shit to SoundCloud, and now I'm a musical artist, right? I'm professionally trained as a news editor. Gatekeeping was my career for a decade. It was my job to review everything coming in the news, poke holes and things that weren't credible, send them back to reporters and photojournalists and say, no, we're not running this because it's just not good enough. See things coming off the wire and being like, this doesn't have anything to do with the attention span of our audience or what matters to them, and decide what is important enough to make the newspaper the next morning. That's what I did day in and day out for years. Reporters, artists, musicians, everyone back in the day had to work to get through all those gates and achieve notoriety. And as a result, life wasn't all entertainment. There was a distinct separation between the audience and the people who were the entertainers who had achieved that notoriety, right? Now, it's like everyone's a celebrity in their own mind. And again, another old man rant. Like, there's this pervasive need to be on stage all the time. The other day, one of my friends had an Instagram story and it linked to another one of her friends. And she had a photo shoot for her bridal shower. Professional photographers and videographers at her bridal shower, and released it in episodes on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. This is not an influencer. This is not a celebrity. This is just a woman. And that's how she decided to present it. And this is like de rigueur for this age group. Like it's just considered fucking normal. I don't get it.
But I mean, I feel like back in the day, you had to work. You had to play local gigs. You had to build up an audience. You couldn't just throw out a video and see what sticks and something go viral. You had to work at it. And thus, a lot of the artists weren't the prettiest, weren't the most beautiful, but they were the ones who the music grabbed people.
But I have to say, on the flip side of that, right? I mean, if we talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, we talk about videos that get released and go viral and reveal things. Back in the day when I was working at the paper, we wouldn't publish anything unless the police confirmed it. Just think about the problem that fucking presents. Shat wouldn't fucking exist. We'd have to get discovered, right? And then be on the radio or something. We could have just published our own shit.
God.
Could you imagine?
No, I totally
I'd have to
agree.
suck so many dicks.
Oh, so many. Just juicy, so many. But yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
Juicy.
And that's the question I have. I've talked about this before and on a podcast probably a long time ago. Whether or not it's better to have been a one-hit wonder, get some success, but then never be able to duplicate it again. And I told the story, I don't remember what podcast it was, so I hope my story is consistent. The Spin Doctors. Probably most of our listeners will maybe remember the Spin Doctors. It was like this poppy band in the 90s. They had a couple hits that made it up the charts. Two Princes, Little Miss Can't Be Wrong, and Jimmy Olsen Blues. They were popular at the time. People, you probably would have said, hey, okay, I'll go see them. Fast forward about 5 or 6 years after their apex, I was in Ohio with a couple friends, went to the Ohio State Fair, very hot day, large auditorium. We were just trying to get out of the sun. We walk in, and there is maybe a 5,000-seat arena with a handful of mothers and their babies in strollers, and the Spin Doctors on stage. And I would think, what bizarro world did I walk into? They're playing their newer songs, trying to get traction. The audience is completely disengaged, changing babies, talking. They start playing Little Miss Can't Be Wrong. The moms stand up. They start clapping, singing. They get to the new song, and the whole audience goes right off again. And I thought, how sad this is. I could see the life draining out of their eyes and say, how did I get here? I almost would rather struggle and never make it because you don't have that knowledge of how good it could be. That will torture you forever. And having people come up to you and be like, hey, who are you? Who are you? Oh, haha, yeah, you guys are that joke. You become the butt of the joke, and it becomes torture that you could never replicate what worked, and you're searching for the formula.
Dude, they're getting paid to play music on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck it. You're getting paid to play. It's better than any other job. It's absolutely better to have that one hit. Listen, let's be honest with ourselves. We peaked as a podcast probably somewhere around Game of Thrones season 8. Our product is better now than it's ever been. Like, we are better at what we do than we ever have been. There are the diehards who are still listening right now. They're like family to us. But as far as our reach, our notoriety, our listenership, it's fading. And this thing that we love doing someday will die. This will end. Don't cry because it's over, Big D. You got to smile because it happened.
Gross. I would also add to that, though, it's not just the one-hit wonders. I think this just happens even to those that become really, really successful. Like, think about Styx. Like, Styx was like a really successful band at one point in time. And I went to go see him with my sister and brother, not him, but them, with my sister and brother-in-law at a casino in Gulfport, Mississippi. And there was this one point where they're playing Come Sail Away, and the guy jumps on top of a spinning piano and he's singing, and everyone's seated eating like shrimp dinners from the buffet and drinking like their drinks. And then there's this moment where one of the guitarists steps to the edge of the stage and like a badass rock star throws his guitar pick into the audience, and you could audibly hear it hit the floor because no one wanted his fucking guitar pick. And this is a band that was like really freaking successful at one point. So I don't think it matters if you have one hit or you have 20 hits. The thing is, if you're not relevant anymore, you can't tell me Billy Corgan feels good about himself, still touring to this day with the type of music he plays. And don't get me wrong, like, I am a die-hard Pumpkins fan. Smashing Pumpkins is by far one of my favorite bands that has ever existed. And they came to Houston last year. And guess what? I did not go see them because I don't want to be depressed. Seeing a 50-year-old Billy Corgan still like with eyeliner playing songs that I used to listen to when I was angsty and a teenager. Like, your time is done eventually as a rock star, one hit or not. Either way, I think you end up really depressed.
There's probably a relationship, though, between how eccentric the artist is and how cringe it is for them to keep doing it. Because I saw like Sparrer a couple years back in Chicago, and they were always just kind of like dudes who wore, Fred Perry shirts and just played music. And now they're still dudes who wear the more rock star they are, the worse it is.
Well, I think it matters if they remain relevant. Like, the problem with Billy Corgan is that, like, nobody makes that kind of music anymore. And yeah, like, we could argue all day about how he helped bring in the type of music that would eventually come with the album Adore. Like, I feel like that album doesn't give enough justice. But, like,
sure,
the fact of the matter is, like, that type of music isn't made anymore. And then you've got somebody like Beyonce. I'm going to see Beyonce in September. I'm fucking excited. It's going to be great. And Beyonce's going to be making music for like another 15 years because she's constantly changing the type of music she makes. So that's your only option really as a successful recording artist, is to constantly reinvent yourself. And that's also got to be really fucking exhausting. You couldn't pay me to be a rock star. That sounds like the worst job ever.
Well, moving from one-hit wonders to somebody who's eternally relevant, Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
He's in this movie. He directed it. He wrote it. It's no surprise. He is charming in this movie as well. He always is. He's that perfect mix in this movie between lovable and just a little bit scary as this manager, Mr. White. But I'm starting to notice the dude kind of typecasts himself as a manager or a captain a lot. Like, he's kind of taking elements of this role and just mixing them around over and over again. League of Their Own, Elvis, Greyhound, Sully, Captain Phillips, like sort of Saving Private Ryan. He's always this sort of like very wise but kind of wily guy in charge.
Yeah, and we finally get the reveal where he brings in Phil, brings him to meet him, and it's this big like moment. And I'm thinking, okay, here's the new manager, the one who's going to take them over the top. Phil has already had this weird interaction in the back of his camper where he's giving them soup. And I'm thinking about these ignorant kids signing contracts. The industry is renowned for taking advantage of them. Tom Hanks comes in, and I'm thinking, okay, the music industry is corrupt. Tom Hanks is going to come in there and he's going to help take advantage of them. No, Tom Hanks is the Tom Hanks of business managers. Tom Hanks is taking care of them. Tom Hanks is this Disney fairy tale. He's helping them get together. He's giving Shades the glasses. He never takes money. There's never a debate about royalties, about anything. He is such the Tom Hanks of, he's taking care of them. This is Forrest Gump. Tom Hanks wrote this in 30 days while traveling, promoting Forrest Gump. This is Forrest Gump, the music manager.
Saying he never takes money is like saying he never takes a shit just because we didn't see it on screen.
No, he doesn't steal. He's Tom Hanks.
I don't think you're giving this movie enough credit, Big D. Think about how Mr. White behaves. Think about why does he push them to the tour and then the movie spot, and then immediately to record covers of other Playtone songs and do a Spanish version of that thing you do. He's not looking out for them. He's extracting as much value from them as possible, as quickly as possible, because he knows that there's a chance that they're a flash in the pan. He's not a bad guy. Like, don't get me wrong. He's not trying to fuck them over, but he's certainly taking advantage of this financial opportunity.
I think he knows there's just a flash in the pan. Like, that's the thing. I don't think it's that he doesn't know. I think he does. And the only time you see him be like genuine is with Faye. He obviously has a soft spot for Faye. He really, really likes her. I think he also really likes Shades. I think that he thinks he's a nice guy, but he's in it for the business. And I think you talked about the foreshadowing, Gene. They use his character to do a lot of this foreshadowing as well, because it's clear that he can see the absolute end in sight, like the very dark light at the end of this one-hit wonder tunnel. And then also with Faye, he's constantly asking Faye all these like very leading questions. Like, are you sure? Like, how long have you guys been together? Like, 2.5 years? Yeah, that must be really special. And in case you guys were curious.
Oh, yes.
We add another 3 times that Liv has close-ups while sighing at Jimmy. So, guys, I mean, they're letting us know she sure must love him a whole lot. Gee golly.
Well, have either of you guys seen the Elvis movie, the new one?
No.
Yes.
Okay, so I watched probably half of it on a plane. Tom Hanks plays Colonel Parker. So he is like the dirty manager there who's taking advantage of Elvis. So watching this afterwards, I kept kind of expecting that to creep in. But no, for you guys to think he's doing his job and getting paid for it. He gets them on the radio, Phil does. Phil hands them off. There's no control of all of the material and making them do. Yes, they have to go do that stupid commercial for the shrimp shooters, but all along the way, they're doing it to promote the band, which is what he is contracted to do, and he cares about them.
Dude, what part of breach of contract do you not understand? Like, he saw that shit coming. The record company gets to keep all that money. They own the album.
Yeah, that's why they have the master. It's part of the deal.
But he knew these kids were going to fuck up, but he took the money. He didn't say, hey, like, Jimmy, like, calm down, man. Like, maybe, like, let's talk about this. Look, you know what? I'm going to work with the record label, and I'm going to get you that record that you want to record. No. There was no compromise there. He knew what he was doing.
Well, we're going to get to that, because I think he did make an attempt.
When That Thing You Do reaches number 7 on the Billboard charts, Mr. White sends the Wonders to Los Angeles to do publicity. On the day of the Hollywood Television Showcase, things start to go awry. TB, the bassist, is nowhere to be found, so Mr. White replaces him with an older, experienced session bassist known as Wolfman. Guy is hungover, Jimmy is vomiting, and Lenny is preoccupied with his new girlfriend. Still, the Wonders manage to cooperate for their television appearance. When the television captions introduce the members of the band, Jimmy's caption reads, "Careful, girls, he's engaged." Already, we're getting caught up in the details of this movie, and it's something we do all the time. We nitpick at these movies. It's part of the fun of doing Shat The Movies. And we don't talk enough about how the movie makes you feel overall. This is a tempting trap for people like us because feelings are another way of saying this is how the movie manipulated my emotions, and we're just too smart for that. And That Thing You Do is really good at it. When the Wonders went on stage for that Hollywood TV showcase, I was grinning ear to ear. I didn't notice it until I felt my face grinning. Steve's on. He's so excited. Guy is oscillating between like the cool shades persona and his giddy nerd self. And I am totally bought in at this point to the positive vibes. And that's really, really important to how effective a movie is.
Yeah, I was really trying hard not to be sucked in by this movie. Like, I didn't want to smile. I thought at moments, okay, well, this is too much. This is too heavy-handed. But then, like, you kind of just can't help it. And I think, again, I don't mean to repeat myself, but part of it is how smart this song is. It's insanely poppy. It's really happy, and you may hate it even, but you can't help but sing along to it. It's how pop music is like supposed to make you feel as a genre. And there is some pop music that literally makes me want to burn my eyes out. Like Jason Mraz makes me want to die. But then really good pop music exists for a reason. Like, I'm sorry. You cannot tell me that a song like I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys is not a fucking song you're going to sing along to.
Banger.
You may not like it.
Yep.
You may not like boy bands, but you fucking are going to go, I Want It That Way, because it's a great song. Pop music brings masses together. It's why it's the most popular brand of music. And whoever wrote this gets that. And this movie would have never worked if whoever wrote this song was not so smart in crafting it. It had to feel real. It had to feel like something that actually would have been a hit if it had played on the radio at this time. And it is something that Lady Gaga did not understand in A Star Is Born. A Star Is Born, I think, is a great remake. I think that movie is actually a really well done film. But that fucking song, Shallow, it's a half of a song. It's a song just for her to randomly moan into a microphone as she like climbs octaves and to have like this moment on stage. No one actually is playing that in their car. No one is actually being like, 30 years from now, wow, Shallow, let's play that, right? You're just going to have people who want to be singers who are on TikTok and at karaoke night. This movie understands music in a way that it's supposed to be understood, and that's why this film works.
Okay, for one, I played that song in the car. I actually liked that song.
In the shadow.
But Gene, here, I need to get you to vote on this. I think this might be the first day that Ash has crossed over into the old time home. She's gotten out on the porch. She's screaming at clouds. She referred to Jason Mraz as a pop guy, like a current pop singer. What year are you living in, Ash? When's the last time you heard Jason Mraz on the radio?
I'm talking about like pop music like that calypso. What is that awful? It was just on at the Olive Garden I was at this weekend. That's why he's in my brain.
Okay, now you're definitely old.
Did you have soup and salad?
No, Finn got to choose any restaurant that he wanted to eat at in Dallas. And he's like, let's be fancy. Let's go to Olive Garden. So we really have to work on his eating. But what is that stupid calypso-y one?
I'm All Yours.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
Yeah, what year was that, Ash? 2005?
I don't know. Fucking Olive Garden plays like easy listening now. But my point is that was a pop song.
Yeah, that was during your like 4 p.m. lunch. You're officially becoming old, Ash.
Oh, I'll let you know that, please.
If it helps at all in Ash's defense, I didn't know who the fuck Jason Mraz was, so
Yeah, I
didn't know that was a person.
Yeah, that's her reference to poppy music that she had. So Ash, welcome to the club. Nice to have you. You can come out on the porch with us, get on your defense.
I'm not old. I'm going to see Beyonce in September, so.
Yeah, she also introduced us to Savage Fenty, so
Bitch.
still got it.
So maybe this is just because of my dark heart and the thing that I want to see, things that are more gritty and real, but I'm waiting for it. We know it's a story about a band. Inevitably, it's got to go to the breakup. Something has to happen. The movie can't end where the band just keeps going on. So I'm like trying to focus on where is the problem going to come from? What is it going to be that causes that final thing that breaks up the band?
You're looking for the plot twist in that thing you do?
No, I'm not looking for the plot. Okay, maybe I am. It's not a plot twist. You know the band's breaking up. But first we get Shade's strict father, who if this was Muriel's wedding, Ash would have described him as a monster because the dad is strict and wants him to work. But no, the dad's not the issue. Is it the contract? Are they going to get cheated by Mr. White or Phil? No. Or Jimmy, who keeps hinting that these are my songs. Is it going to be something he's fighting for credit? No. Or maybe Chad, that poor dude who broke his arm. Maybe he tries to get back in the band. He had something to do with writing the song. No, he just happily moves on with his life. Is it an interracial relationship that we get to see? Because they hint at it, that people are kind of going to be shocked about an interracial relationship. No, that's not. Faye gets ill on a plane. It's a big thing. She's sick. Then, of course, Jimmy gets sick. He's got to go on stage. I'm thinking, man, he is going to puke. Something bad is going to happen. There's going to be some turning point. And the biggest adversity this band faces that almost ends them is their show in Pittsburgh where they get a little feedback and the cymbal falls. They're like, oh, this is the worst day. How are we going to do this? Oh, I just don't know if I could handle the crowd not liking us. Until Dell thankfully comes out and gives us the ominous foretold about the band's breakup. Did I know we were at that point in the movie?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought up Dell. You guys know how I love to point out the magical Negro in a movie. And that thing you do gives us not one, but two. It's double magical Negro night at Shat The Movies. We get Del Paxton, the jazz great who doesn't mind random white geek sitting with them at the bar and later asks like, hey man, can we jam together? And then we get Lamar, the bellhop at the Ambassador Hotel, site of Robert F. Kennedy's assassination because Tom Hanks just couldn't resist. This guy is there to call all the white kids young squire, and he takes care of poor, helpless Faye, and he encourages Guy to kiss the girl. Double magical Negro.
Gene, I saw the magical Negro coming a mile away, and it was so telegraphed. I'm thinking there's no chance we're going to get Gene's favorite magical Negro. But then they even up the ante. At the final scene, the camera pulls in. It pulls in. Lamar looks at me. I'm like, Lamar, don't do it. Don't do it. And he straight up winks at me. Lamar breaks the fourth wall. He shares his magic with me. And because of that moment, I left this film happier than That was just a couple minutes before.
I mean, the only thing that would have made it worse is if it was one of those weird, like, fast motion freeze frames, like they have, like, at the end of, like, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, where, like, you know, he, like, rides his little broom too close to the screen. Oh, it was so bad. It was so bad.
Poor Lamar.
Now we're going to get letters from the Goggites and also...
I'm sorry, I believe they're her monsters.
Oh, sorry.
Call me old again.
Well, Jimmy lashes out at Faye in the dressing room, insinuating that she was responsible for the engaged caption. So she breaks up with him. The next day, bassist TB is still missing, and now so is Lenny. Mr. White has provided new material to record, but Jimmy wants to do his original songs. There's the conflict, Big D. Reminded that their contract allows Playtone to dictate their material, Jimmy quits on the spot. Guy stays in the recording studio, and his idol, jazz pianist Del Paxton, is there making a recording and is impressed with Guy's drumming. Wow, kid, you really can drum.
Yeah,
They jam together, and Del asks Guy to stay in Los Angeles and record a jazz album.
Well, there's something about Liv Tyler's pout that just like gets me every time. She has these beautiful lips. She looks so much more beautiful when she's sad than happy. I don't know if you know anybody like that in your real life, but people who are like so pretty when they cry.
All women.
Like Liv Tyler is so pretty when she cries. It also really plays to great advantage here because you feel really badly for Faye. She's pitiful when she realizes how much of a shit Jimmy is. And for it to be so public, I mean, it sucks. Now, one thing I like about this movie that a lesser movie would do is he doesn't break up with her. It's not some long drawn out thing. Like she stands up for herself and she breaks up with him. And I forgot that and I liked it. But all those like sighing close-ups of her face, they pay off at the end because you're devastated for her because she looks so pretty with her little updo and that dress with the weird burgundy underskirt. But you just gotta feel bad for Faye. And it's a reminder why all of you out there, if you're looking for a movie to commission, someone commissions Stealing Beauty because there's never a better pouty Liv or topless Liv, because she's topless in that movie, than you get in Stealing Beauty. But I think she's great here.
I was so relieved when I thought this was going to be her big exit from the movie because I was like, whew, unscathed. There are two things I cannot stomach in a movie that will fuck with me for weeks. Rape scenes and seeing women get slapped around. And I was certain, I would have put money on it, that one of those two things was going to happen to Faye. I was so worried. I was like, oh, thank God she's gone. Okay, good. And then when she came back, I was like, oh, shit.
Have you not been paying attention to the film? You think they skipped swearing? This is rock and roll without swear words, but they were going to throw in maybe a scene of abuse. At the final scene, she's going to get raped, and you're going to be like, what just happened? But Gene, you mentioned that we finally get the breakup. You know, there's the final straw. The band, it's over. Was it drugs? Was it money, cheating, sex? No, it was a Spanish version of that thing you do.
Which I really wanted to hear.
Yeah, I totally want to hear it. And that request was just too much for Jimmy to take. He couldn't do it. And it's the least dramatic, high energy breakup of a band in history. Jimmy just says, I quit. And everyone's like, okay. Sounds good to me. I'm gonna go get married. I'm gonna sit here and jam out with the magical Negro and play I Am Spartacus. And then it's just everybody's okay. They walk away. And the one person I'm like who is not gonna let this shit slide is Mr. White, the evil record producer, Gene, like you think he is. He is the one. I
never said he was evil.
Well, you said he's the one who's going to. He owns the rights to the music, and he this.
Yeah,
so right.
It's business.
So he's the one who's likely going to lose the most money because the band is dissolving. Right? He even tells him, "Guess what, buddy? You're under contract. This music is ours." Oh, but don't worry. Nobody's going to jail. He doesn't even hold his feet to the fire. He doesn't say, hey, get your ass back in there. I own you. You're not recording anything until you do this. He doesn't because he's nice.
No, because he's got the record. He doesn't need the recording is an expense. These guys just left and he's got access to all their music. It's fucking great.
Right, but normally if you own the band, you're going to want to squeeze every hit out of them as possible. But he's okay. How many times do you have people held into their contract? Hey, make us more music. Prince fought against the industry for years because of it. The record producer would not let them walk, would not let them do anything else. There would have been some fights. Even the members of the band, they seem happier to just walk off. They're living their better lives after the band.
Two things. One, Mr. White recognizes that the Wonders are no Prince. Two, you just touched on the weakest part of the movie. I get Jimmy quitting because the whole time he's been consistent. He sees himself as an artist and not an entertainer. He doesn't want to do all this fucking around. He wants to write serious songs for serious people, and he goes off and he joins the Herdsmen. But the other band members not showing up for this big recording session, it just doesn't hold water. TB, he disappeared to go to Disneyland with some Marines. He wasn't called up. It wasn't August yet. He was just like, I'm going to go to Disneyland and not show up for the recording, the thing we've been working for this whole time. Lenny couldn't wait a day to get married. I don't get why Mr. White isn't just like, hey, kid, you can't go to Vegas tonight. Unless, of course, he wanted him to not show up. You got a recording session tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think it reinforces my theory, though. Mr. White was okay with these guys dissolving. He got his. Well, Guy returns to the hotel to check out and encounters a dejected Faye who plans to return to Erie. Faye goes to the curb to call a cab, but Guy chases after her and they kiss, finally admitting their long hidden feelings for one another that Ash saw from a mile away. An epilogue reveals that Jimmy became a record producer. Lenny is single and a hotel and casino manager in Nevada. Bassist TB went to war in Vietnam and earned a Purple Heart, then worked in construction in Orlando, Florida. And Guy and Faye are married with 4 children in Bainbridge Island, Washington, where Guy teaches jazz composition at their own music conservatory.
All right, guys, it's confession time. I have a guilty pleasure with movies. I love it when we get an epilogue of some kind. I even was a fan of the Harry Potter epilogues. I just like to see what happens to characters, especially when I really love them. I like to see what happens to them because they feel real in a way. And that's why, like, the 6 Feet Under ending, where you find out how everyone dies 20, 30, 40, 50 years in the future. So it's the best ending of a television show of all time because you see their stories. And so even here in this stupid, sticky, sweet film, I like the epilogue, and I like that it's like a realistic epilogue, and it's not like Guy becomes like the next great jazz musician, or that Lenny ends up, you know, staying married to this lady for the rest of his life. Like, I like the fact that, you know, everything makes sense, and I know that these can be kind of gross and all that, but I want closure, god damn it, and I like that they gave us closure at the end of this movie.
This explains why you like the Sandlot epilogue, where we found out that sexual assault kid got the chick pregnant like 8 fucking times.
Yeah, he had a good time and they had a beautiful family. Justice for Squints.
I agree.
Did you absolutely sob your ass off during that baseball scene at the end of Band of Brothers?
Oh, fuck. It's so fucking sad.
I was a fucking mess.
I was dying. And that's the thing. If you would finally do yourself the favor of watching 6 Feet Under, when I tell you that I have never sobbed more uncontrollably than at the end of that fucking television show, when you find out what happens to characters you love, man.
I don't need that energy in my life, Ash.
You need all of that fucking energy in your life.
But I think I'm just trying to think of what's going through Tom Hanks's head as he's writing this. He's just done Forrest Gump. It's this surreal world where he rewrites history, where Forrest has been at the pinnacle or the big moments all throughout the world. And he's writing, and the world to me that he has built, that this cast and this story takes place, to me, it feels like a world without disease. Everything is optimistic. There's no death. I'm convinced they've eliminated childhood hunger. There's racial harmony. I think Dr. Martin Luther King survives in this world. I think that the Wonders or Tom Hanks could stop that. There's no water contamination. The global health issues are gone. Poverty is ended. There's no war. TB, he survives 2 tours in Vietnam. I'm convinced that this is either a dream Tom Hanks world or some kind of utopian simulation where they're trapped in, where nothing bad can happen. Because I don't think anything bad could possibly happen in this world.
I think your standard is you just think nothing bad enough happened, because Lenny ends up divorced.
But he's happy.
Jimmy, is he?
Yes,
he's managing a fucking casino.
That's what he wants to do. You saw him with those chips. He's giving them out. He wants to be around the action. He's perfectly happy.
The only one who lands a serious music career is Jimmy, who's a fucking jerk. And clearly Del Paxton was wrong about Guy having the chops to make it in Hollywood because Guy ends up teaching jazz in Washington State. All that's missing, did you want TB to die? Would that make you happy if it's like, and TB died in Vietnam?
It would have been realistic. And you're making it sound like starting a conservatory for children to learn music is a step down.
Those who can't teach.
Oh, that's it. Del would have been happy. Del would have been proud that he was sharing the love of music.
Ash just walked off the pod. Now Big D's leaving, just me. And in comes a jazz musician. All right.
It's not the movie that's the problem. It's you guys.
It's you too. Well, now's the time in the podcast where we give our Shat score for That Thing You Do. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get out of your respective butts. 0 wipes is getting to meet Freddie Fredrickson, Diane Dane, and the Chantrells in the same week. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a movie. It is wasting thousands and thousands of kisses on a guy because of his lips and his smile and all his color in life. Ash, we'll start with you. What is your wipe score for That Thing You Do?
This is a cute movie. And y'all, it's okay to just be a cute movie. It's not a movie that makes you think. It's not something that I would like maybe want to watch every day, but it's a good film. It's sweet. And you just like can't help but like it. Like these people are likable characters. The song is likable. The, storyline is likable. It's like Big D with the craft. It's fun. It's a fun film. Yeah. And this is a cute film. And I'll be really honest, and I don't mean to not do my job this week. I don't really have any other reasons than that for my wipe score. Like, it's a cute movie. And for me, it's 2.5 wipes. It's like perfectly average. It's poppy. It sticks in your head, and then you forget it as soon as it's done.
I never would have predicted coming in with the lowest wipe score, but I think I just might. This movie feels great. I agree. But it's pretty paint by numbers. Like, it's not breaking any new ground. We didn't learn anything here.
Yeah.
There's nothing to talk about really other than a super catchy song. There were a few great cameos that we didn't mention. Bryan Cranston is great in this as Gus Grissom. And Chris Isaac is great in this as Uncle Bob or Uncle Bill. It's a really beautiful recreation of a 60s that really never was. But the foreshadowing of both TB and Faye's stories was really heavy-handed. Just above average. This is 2 wipes for me.
I can't fault the movie. It's expertly put together. It's meant to not have you think, like you said, Gene, to have a good family night watching a film. And for that, I think it's great. I think I could watch this with my parents, any relative I know. No one would be offended. There is nothing in this movie objectionable. And that is my only knock on it. So is that worth taking off wipes? I don't know. But to me, it was too sugary sweet, too unrealistically optimistic, too just, 3 wipes for me. It's not terrible, but it's worse than average. I want some adversity. I want some challenges. But anything Tom Hanks is in has got to be somewhat decent.
I always want to be clear on this. Like, everyone's entitled to their score. I don't disagree. That's fine. What you're saying is that this is a below average movie.
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
I think just for me, again, that's just.
Yeah, I mean, 3's not horrible. It's just, it is what it is. It's cute.
I don't think it's terrible, but it's not aimed at, it wasn't meant for me to like it. Tom didn't sit down and envision me watching this alone.
I would argue that he was like, white men in the suburbs approaching their 50s, this is the movie. So actually, he did aim it towards you. You just passed it back and said, no, thank you. I need it to be darker. You're fucking Leonard Cohen over there.
Yes.
All right, well, with 2 wipes from me, 2.5 wipes from Ash, and 3 wipes from Big D, that gives us an average wipe score of 2.5 wipes, right down the middle. Lazy asses for That Thing You Do.
Oh, I think Tom Hanks was a bit of a lazy ass when he wrote this in 30 days. So yes, I think it fits perfectly where it is. This is in the 181 spot with Empire Records, Back to the Beach. Wow, Back to the Beach. We get that's a perfect tie-in. Little Giants, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Ravenous, Taps, and Romper Stomper.
Yeah.
All right.
It's fine.
You see? This is exactly what Tom wanted. Our response here, we left the audience, we left the theater being like, it's
fine.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Did anybody offended? No.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Do that thing you do, Tom.
Yeah.
It's all right.
All right, Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Gene, next week, we're going to a genre we have never done for Shat the Movies, and it is anime. A highly skilled ninja is coerced into slaying his own clan of warriors. After begrudgingly killing his fellow swordsman, he becomes a roving hired assassin. He must face off against an organization of demonic ninjas known as the Devils of Kamon, who are plotting to take power of Japan's government. The devil will stop at nothing to have the power to annihilate entire villages. Now only the Shogun and the Ninja Spy can stop them. Commissioned by Eric C. This came out in 1993, and this is going to be like something we've never done before. And I'm hoping for a Robot Jocks like vibe, something like that, even a good recording like that, because this is something totally foreign to us.
Eric, I now own this movie on DVD, so thanks for that. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Tony. And thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. Email us, host@shatthemovies.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all the information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Ash and Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next week for the following movie.
We're going back to 1996 to review a comedy about the 1960s one-hit pop band, and that is That Thing You Do.
No.
Okay.
Do it again.
So bad.
Okay. And this one features a musical band, and it was released in 1996. And one of our commissioners, what? It was released in 1996.
It features a musical band.
Fine. Gene.